Hi, welcome back to True Fraud. My name is Pablo Torres. I'm your host, and today we're going to talk about the United Arab Emirates. On previous episodes, we've talked about we've done the deep dives on the countries because we give kind of tips on how to navigate that. But really, we're in the UAE. All of it is, well, not all of it, but they're a tax haven, right? Because of that, then it lends itself to, it's basically a place for shell companies. All of these shell companies, basically what they do is they're used, a lot of the times they're used to hold assets, or they're called vanity assets. So these vanity assets are, they go from anything from real estate to cash to stocks to even artwork. They're a free zone in the way that there's no tax, there's no income tax, right? And so a lot of, actually, in e-commerce is very popular for people to move there so that they don't have to pay that income tax. And there's actually I would say like a group of people, I don't know how big the population is for these entrepreneurs that go and live there, and they basically just run their e-commerce business from there because there's no tax. I heard somewhere that might be changing. If it hasn't changed already, there's going to be some sort of tax, precisely for under the idea that there's all of these people that are kind of moving there, right? However, we've heard multiple times on the news about all of these crypto companies that have entities established there, where they have shell corporations, and then the UBOs kind of go and hide themselves there. The structure of all of these free zone regions, or jurisdictions, I should say, that's the correct term, basically allow you to sell kind of layered shell corporations, so that in the end, all the UBOs, or unique beneficial owners, they're hard to find. When you're trying to hide your assets because you don't want any of the agencies to go after them, then that's the best way to do it, right? In fact, you'll see it under the FZCO, which is a free zone company. Then there's also the FZE, which is basically the difference between the one and the other is that one is for like an individual person, and the other one can basically take more than 2 shareholders. But even the EU kind of put the UAE into like a non-cooperative blacklist for tax havens. And in a way, I feel like this made it even more attractive for a lot of people that are trying to move their assets to this area, right? There's a bunch of things that are happening there. Like there's, of course, maybe not so related to the e-commerce part, but there's all of the human trafficking that you probably hear about with construction workers that get there. They're promised a wage or something like that, and then when they get there, then they're not paid that, and then the builder or the contractor holds their passports, and it's basically they're there and they live in deplorable situations. And so that's one of the things that happens there that you probably hear a lot about. But if you do a little bit of research and you just go kind of a little bit deeper into what's happening in the UAE, it's a great place to invest in the way that there's a lot of money moving around. There's a lot of freedom to move that money around. You're not paying taxes. In fact, they're actually going to start opening casinos there. And there's, of course, from a religious perspective, then the locals, of course, are not allowed to go in there and take part of any of that. But this is yet another attempt to kind of draw people into that area, right? Like there's a big population or subsegment of the population in China that loves to go to gamble in Vegas, and they're trying to make that whole free zone and the UAE attractive to bring these people in. These people that love to gamble, of course, they have the money to do so, and then that means also that they have businesses, and then this is how they start kind of drawing this population into this new commercial area where, again, you don't pay taxes. And so it's very attractive for a lot of people, right? And then, of course, because you have all of these shell corporations, and there's AML regulations, and then there's people that are looking at it. There's KYB, KYC regulations, and every business that is registered needs to follow with those, or they need to be compliant with them. There's still a lot of room for some of these shell companies to basically just establish themselves there and just kind of start moving things there, and nobody's gonna question it, right? And so if you're looking into a business, into opening a business, if you're looking into maybe exploring that market, know that of course it's a market that it's up and coming. There's a lot of things that are changing soon there. It's developing, it's growing, and then of course it represents an opportunity for you. Let's say if you're trying to start a brand that's high end with a high AOV, then it might be a great opportunity. Understanding how to handle your sales in that place, and maybe even handle your marketing based on the possible impact of religious beliefs, and maybe understanding what the percentage of the population is foreign nationals and something like that. I think that's also a great step to be able to move forward in that market. And right now, a lot of people are seeing the UAE as a place to run their business from. However, they're also seeing all the noise that it's making, and how they're kind of drawing all of these segments of the population into it, right? I mean, everyone has heard probably about the whole golf thing with the PGA and the LIV. They're definitely making kind of waves in different markets, and they're drawing people in very different ways. And so being able to understand how to adapt to that, and seeing the opportunity in such a growing market, I think that's definitely going to be an asset for you as a business. But even when you look at it from a developing perspective, like all the buildings that are going up and all the projects that they have going on, and now speaking of the casinos, clearly there's a lot of money moving around. If you have big groups or big lumps of money moving around in one area, then of course it's going to draw a specific type of line of products. So when you're trying to, every time that you think of the profile and the possibility of committing fraud with some of these in some of these economies, you have to put side by side the economy, the concept of their economy and how it works, considering the growth and the for example, the credit card accessibility and banking and all of that. But you need to put it right on par with the religious aspect or the religious profile of the country, right? Previously, we talked about Japan, and there's like how strong it is culturally. And so in the same, kind of on the same page, you can think about the UAE and the religious beliefs, and how something like that, like, doing scams or defrauding people is very frowned upon. And even though, this is a tax haven, the type of fraud that we're talking about here with like credit card fraud and all of that, that's considered, kind of low in a way. And so you won't see as much of it there. I mean, of course, if you have casinos moving in, and you have big investments of new economies, new types of businesses, then you're, along with that, you're drawing the negative side of it, right? And there's always going to be something that kind of gets through the cracks, and that's actually kind of where everything begins with fraud. If you have an e-commerce business, and you're setting up shop in the UAE because it's attractive to you due to the tax regulations and all of that, merchant of record might be attractive to you because of all the cross-border fees so yes, your local banks, like the ability from the local banking there is very comfortable with dealing with all sorts of currencies, and they can offer all sorts of products that you're looking for, right? This is exactly one of the attractive parts of opening a business there. The merchant of record model can help you there with cutting down on a lot of those fees and saving you a lot of money. Actually, when we're talking about cross-border fees, when you have a business that's basically just global, right? You're opening it up to everyone. You're not going to be paying local taxes there. However, you're still going to be receiving transactions from all over the place. And so if you can cut down on your fees for that type of transaction, then you can definitely save a lot of money that way. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And if you're interested in growing your business, I recommend you to go to withreach.com and learn how we can help you grow your business.
Brought to you by the Reach Network. Visit withreach.com/network for more.